So a very popular topic, which actually comes in and a lot of business owners think about, in my humble opinion, I think a lot of people do it too soon, is actually at what point do you bring in some help for your team? And actually, so if you want to grow the business, do you, how and when do you start building a team to bring in staff? Because obviously there's cost and there's time and there's management time and there's lots of different stuff. And it's that balance of where actually it's a harder decision to make than you think. But likewise, I just wanted to share some of my thoughts on the topic. You might have your own. If you do, please kind of comment. I'd love to kind of talk it through with you. But actually, for most business owners, it depends on the type of business that you have. The dream, or at least the theory, it depends on what you want to achieve, is to create a scalable business like, say, a songwriter now. The effort goes into writing the song, but once he has the digital file, in theory, that can be distributed or sold on iTunes around the world 1 million times, and they don't have to do more effort to actually kind of, benefit from the business. That's what we call a scalable business. In some ways, that's what I'm doing with the roadmap. So I've done all of the hard work to build the core of the course and the textbook and the stream, and I've got a new website kind of coming, but you build the basics. And then actually the way that we'll look to grow that, I might still need help, but it will be to help grow and amplify the machine to really kind of add momentum to what we're doing, as opposed to, I'm going to use Francesca's cleaning business as an example, is that if she wanted to grow that business, because inherently you need to pay staff to do the physical cleaning, because it's a physical job, you almost have to then employ someone to do that for you. And what I want to do is just talk about some things to consider when you kind of go through this process, but the same would be true for a copywriter, a marketer, someone that does business strategy, sales, just anyone that pretty much kind of works for themselves. The theory is kind of the big thing. So the first thing that I would say is that until you are profitable and making a clear net profit at the end of every month, don't do it. Most business owners, me included, you have the decision on, in theory that in time you would love to have a team to then do the work for you, and you kind of just go out and win it or whatever. But the issue is, if you bring in overhead, so you start to pay staff wages, office costs, computer costs, licenses, that kind of thing earlier, that overhead is going to build up, and the chances are, unless you're really profitable at the start, which is unlikely, it could kill a business before you even kind of get going. So my first thing would actually look is that, are you profitable as a business? For me, doing the consultancy, I'm now at the point where I'm kind of sold out, but I split my time between doing roadmap stuff, which is my longer term vision, and people that pay me today to do stuff, which is the consultancy. For what I do and for the consultancy, because it's quite difficult, I'm purposely not going to bring in a team to do that. But in theory, I could. So I could hire a graduate or hire someone to join me on the team. I win more work. They do it on my behalf. But then there's a risk of, is the quality going to be good enough? Is the client service going to be good enough? That kind of thing. But because my core business is going to be built around the roadmap, I'm purposely making that kind of decision. But related to that, so basically, if you are a freelance, say, graphic designer, always make sure that you're profitable first and make sure it's not just like a blip. So actually, you're making money and your business is thriving, if that kind of makes sense. At least, growing, that your cash kind of generative. The next thing to look at, are you near capacity? So by this, what is interesting is that if you generally work, so I was in the office for 7 a.m. kind of this morning. I often work until 6 p.m. and then I stagger work for other people throughout the day between different clients and different kind of stuff. That's about the point and the maximum where I'm probably, before Christmas, I was over capacity and it really kind of built up and I started to burn out a little bit and I was really tired. Actually now, I'm just on the cusp of I'm at the right level where I'm busy, but I do have a bit of breathing space, but actually that allows me to kind of stay sane and still work on some of my kind of lead actions and other stuff for the course. But what you really want to look at is, are you near capacity? Because actually, if you are a freelancer and you're basically selling your time for £30 an hour, say, to do kind of stuff, if you start to bring in more people, what that's going to do is eat into that, which I'm going to kind of briefly kind of draw out. But the whole point is to build a scalable, kind of sustainable business. And actually, wait until you're at capacity where you're almost at bursting point and you're desperate for help, and then do it at that point, because then you'll know it's not too soon. Because as soon as almost you make that commitment to employ someone, that's a major commitment that you almost want to make sure that it's nothing that you couldn't have done yourself, because actually that's almost more sustainable from a business point of view in the long term. It's completely different again if you want a lifestyle business where actually you only want to work a day a week and you want someone else to do all the stuff, in which case go fine. But I'm just thinking from a purely kind of profitability kind of point of view. So the next thing to do, I'm going to go to green, I think. Actually, I'm going to go blue. So if you're then, business is going well, you're happy with how things are going, clients are happy, you can sustain it, but actually you know that you can grow the business and do more if you bring someone in. I'm going to put those two down. What you then want to do is calculate your average charge rate. So often different clients pay different amounts of money. Some will pay more, but then also keep in mind although someone might pay you, I'm going to say, I don't know, £50 to do a job that is meant to take 2 hours. In theory, that's £25 an hour. In practice, it might take you actually 4 hours all the way through from going out to see the customer, talking it through, 2 hours doing the work, but then there's another hour when you hand over and then there's some changes. So actually it's 4 hours. But the point is, if you really know your actual charge rate, what you do, you need to know that, because likewise, if you think on paper that it's £25 an hour, but in practice it's not, it's more like 10. If you then bring in and you get to capacity and you bring in a staff member who you also then pay £10 an hour, you're actually making next to no profit. And it's almost having a real genuine understanding of your own kind of figures. So I'm going to use an example. So I'm going to say 30. So for everything that you do for different clients, it averages out to £30 an hour. If you're going to bring someone in the UK, I'm going to pick round easy figures just because it makes my life easier now. But obviously for wherever you are, say it's on £10 an hour. So new staff on £10 an hour. In theory, what that would allow you to do is, on paper at first glance, you'll make £20 per hour net profit if you can sell the job to someone else, hire someone to do it for you, and then actually, what you're left with is plus 20. And in theory, on paper, you could actually probably get away with that as a way to grow the business. But the thing that people always kind of miss is that in terms of new staff, you always have management time, extra overheads in terms of national insurance, pensions, office space, heating, holidays, whatever. So actually that's probably 50% more. So it's probably 5 in terms of overheads. So actually it's not £10 an hour, it's £15 an hour, which is great if you can still sell it for 30. But this is why I was saying before, it's really important to really know what you're actually getting paid, because what you don't want to do, and this does happen, is that you bring in staff that you actually guarantee 38 hours a week for. On paper, it kind of makes sense, but the reason why it's important to make sure that you're at capacity, or there's an extra work that you can go for to bring it in, is that you might commit to someone to be full-time 38 hours a week on £15 an hour, which is your kind of cost. But actually, if you only have 20 hours worth of work per week for them to do, you're still committed to pay them, unless it's a 0 hours contract or whatever. But you could very easily find yourself in a trap where actually you're losing money, so you're no longer profitable, and actually your capacity is going to drop, because when you first started out, in theory, you don't need to manage yourself. You can just bash through it, so actually you can be really super efficient. And it's all of these little things that I just wanted to talk about, that actually, if you're a freelancer or a copywriter or a chef or whatever it is, look at what you can charge for what you do. Really understand, actually, are you profitable, that you're going to make a profit at the end of the year and you're really happy with that buffer? Hopefully you've got enough cash there to cover wages and stuff if nothing else kind of comes in. Look at your capacity and actually, could you handle, would it really help you out? But likewise, is there enough work for this person to do and still remain profitable? And don't forget things like management time as well. Likewise, when someone joins your team or your business or whatever, it will take them a while to kind of get up to speed. There will be mistakes. They won't be in your style when they first start and that kind of thing. Likewise, get all of this correct. And then, yes, it's the right time to bring in help for what you're doing. If you're not sure, my personal view would be don't do it until you're guaranteed that you're confident in what you're doing, that's the right thing to do, that it'll be profitable, etc., etc. Have you ever actually employed staff? How did you find it? You don't have to employ them directly. One of the options that I've kind of looked at is bringing in theory, temporary kind of agency work. They can still be really cool, good people, but actually you're not classed as the employer, which brings different risks and kind of benefits. Or what I do, I guess, for some kind of video editing and stuff, is that I outsource it to other people that operate as a business who do a fabulous job kind of for me, but it's based on invoices, etc., for set pieces of work, as opposed to an ongoing kind of number of hours per week that I promise them that I'll kind of do. If you kind of catch this, please feel free to kind of comment in the comments. They will kind of pop up on screen. And again, all of these kind of get popped up onto YouTube. And yes, I was going to say the one other thing that I forgot to kind of read out is that if you are actually going to bring in someone, make sure that they have really clear tasks and goals. One of the things that I think is really important is just so that everyone knows what they're expected to do, how and why and when for, because often this can go wrong actually if it's not really clearly defined what they're going to do. So it's just another kind of top tip I wanted to talk about.